Hello and welcome, welcome, welcome. Come in and join me. There are some things that I want to talk about today. So, all of this stuff going on in the world, how would you feel if I told you it is not the stuff happening in the world that causes a problem for us? It's the meaning we attach to it. This is what I want to talk about. I think a lot of people misunderstand right now. They think that what's happening in the world is what is dysregulating them. And there are things going on in the world. There's chaos, there's uncertainty, there is collapse of familiar systems. There are people that we thought we knew and trusted appearing to be not what they claim to be. And so this stuff can affect us. But it's not really the events so much as what we are telling ourselves about the event. It's the meaning we attach to the event. And this is important because we may not be able to change the events out there in the world, but we can certainly change the meaning we attach to them. So, everything I do is about your subconscious mind. Your subconscious, which is responsible for your reactions, your emotions, your nervous system reactions, responds to interpretation, not to reality. Okay, so your nervous system doesn't know what's going on out there in the world. It relies on certain cues to know what to turn on or off. It doesn't understand politics or world events or history or context. It relies on your thinking to know what to turn on or off. Now, what do I mean turn on or off? Every thought that we think creates a corresponding chemical cascade in the body. For example, if you were a person who happened to be afraid of snakes and you thought you saw a snake right now on the floor of wherever you are, there would be all kinds of physical, emotional, psychological, chemical reactions that would occur within your body. You would enter into fight or flight state. Your heart would start to beat more rapidly. Your palms would go dry or go moist. Your mouth would be dry. You're entering into fight flight state. You're preparing to protect yourself from that snake or flee from the room. But if you then realized it wasn't a snake at all, but rather an extension cord, all of those responses would go away. Your heart rate would return to its normal rate. Your mouth would be moist again, your palms dry. You might even laugh at yourself for thinking it was a snake in the first place. And now you're releasing endorphins, serotonin, all of the feel good hormones. And the point is, it doesn't matter if there was a snake there or not. All of those reactions were created in response to your thoughts, right? I work with a lot of people in hypnotherapy who have anxiety. If you've ever struggled with anxiety, you know you can be someplace perfectly safe. You can be at a perfectly safe period in your life, but with your own thoughts, generate such a degree of anxiety that you feel panicky, you feel threat, there's some kind of threat. So, your thoughts are generating all of these reactions in your body. If your thoughts focus on fear or danger or loss of control, threat, then your body releases adrenaline, it releases cortisol, it shifts into protection mode. This is what your body is meant to do. If you are focusing on threat, your body is meant to give you the physiology so that you can deal with that perceived threat. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Two people can look at the exact same world event, the exact same situation, and have completely different internal experiences. We don't all look at things the same way. So, for example, let's say three people lose a job. The first person says, "Oh my God, how could I let this happen? This is the worst thing that could happen to me. I'm going to end up on the streets. I'm not going to be able to afford my bills. Oh, I'm such a loser." Right? With that way of thinking and the chemicals that that type of thinking releases, this person's going to feel defeated and deflated. They're not going to have a lot of energy to change their situation. Let's say person number two experiences the same event. They too lose a job, but their thinking is different. They think, okay, not ideal, but I trust that I have good skills. I trust that if I redo my CV, do some networking, do some, put it out there that I'm looking for something, I'll find something. It's just a matter of time. Same event, different way of thinking. The second person is going to have way more energy and creativity to change their situation than the first person. Now, person number three, same event, totally different perspective. They think, okay, that's surprising. But what if this is happening for me instead of to me? What if this is an opportunity for me to be in an even better situation? What if I'm leveling up? Maybe this is a chance to make more money, to travel, to learn some new skills. Maybe I'll meet my love of my life at my next job. Who knows? Maybe this is for me, right? With that way of thinking, I'm sure you would agree that person number 3 is going to have way more energy and creativity to change their situation than person number 1, right? So it's not the events, it's the interpretation of those events that we hold in our minds. And again, this is good news because we can't always change the event, but we can change our interpretation. So the world that we're in right now, you can look at the world and think, this is terrifying. Everything I was trusting is falling apart. There's no safety anymore. This is going to end badly. And as a result, your body is going to respond with fear chemistry. Or you could think, of course, this is happening. Corruption needs to be realized in order for it to be changed. Awareness has to happen before we can change anything. There is too much corruption in the world. As people become aware of it, we are going to be moved to create a new situation. This is painful, but it's necessary. See? Same event, different way of thinking. This person is going to have more clarity, more energy, more oomph to change their situation. Why? Because again, the thoughts we think affect our body. So it's not about being positive. It's not about denying reality. It's not about going, the world is fine right now. Everything's okay. What are you talking about? Right? You're not crazy. I'm not talking about gaslighting yourself. It's just about being aware of cause and effect, right? Thoughts we think affect our body and choosing intentionally. Fear-based interpretations release chemicals that narrow your attention, reduce cognitive flexibility, impair problem solving, shut down creativity, pull blood away from the brain. Yes, when you're in a fight or flight state, blood is shunted away from your critical thinking, problem solving part of your brain into the primitive animal reaction part of your brain. You are literally less intelligent when you are in a fight flight state. And most of the things going on in the world, going on in our worlds, are better solved if we can think clearly and problem solve, find solutions. We are not solving things when we're in a fight flight state. When you're in a fight flight state, you're just trying to survive, right? You're not coming up with great solutions and great ideas. You're just trying to get through the day. So again, it's not about lying to ourselves. It's not about pretending the world is fine. It's about recognizing that you have a laboratory of chemicals that you can access inside your head, and you can do that with your own thinking. You're doing it all the time. If you're feeling depleted, if you're feeling wired and anxious all the time, have a look at the thoughts that you're thinking. All right. So a lot of people actually believe that staying angry or activated or constantly distressed or enraged means that they care, right? I actually see this in my hypnotherapy clients as well. People who have a hard time forgiving something that happened because they feel like if they forgave it, it's like they're saying, oh, I don't really care. It didn't matter. It didn't hurt me, right? So they're hanging on to this anger or this sense of betrayal or whatever it is because it feels like they're empowering themselves by doing so. So it can feel empowering to be doing something, to be angry, to be enraged, to be, about what's going on in the world. But caring and being chemically flooded are not the same thing, right? There's a difference between having your head in the game and being able to deal with something and just being enraged all the time. If you want to actually change something, you need clarity, you need perspective, you need discernment, you need creativity, and none of that is available to you when your system is focused on threat. So, the meaning that you're associating with things matters. Events are neutral. The meaning is not. When I think about this, it always reminds me of this old story of the farmer. Maybe you've heard it. The farmer's horse runs away, and the neighbors say, that's terrible. Your horse is gone. Oh no, you've lost a horse. And the farmer says, maybe, maybe not. And then the horse comes back a while later with this pack of wild horses. And the neighbors say, oh, how great. You've got all these other horses. Your horse brought back all of these other horses. That's wonderful. And the farmer says, maybe, maybe not. And then the farmer's son breaks his leg trying to ride one of the horses and taming it. And the neighbors all say, oh, that's awful. Your son has a broken leg. How terrible. And the farmer says, maybe, maybe not. And then later, the son avoids being sent to war because of his injury. And the neighbors say, oh, what a great blessing. And the farmer says, maybe, maybe not. So It's all a matter of opinion. We can look at a situation from different angles and see it from different perspectives. The point isn't about being optimistic. It's not just about put a smile on your face. Again, the point is about being aware of the meaning that you attach to things and how that meaning affects you. This is empowerment. Again, we can't change necessarily what's going on in the world, but we can change our reaction to it. And when we do that, we are no longer feeding into all of that negativity. We're rising above it. We're able to come from a place where we think clearly, where we're grounded, where we're resourced enough to be able to make changes or live within a situation that's going on without having such an impact on you. And so how do you do this? How do you change your thinking? Let's do something practical. Now on Friday at 11 a.m. on YouTube, I'm going to be doing a demonstration of this. So we'll talk about if you want to join and actually participate, we can work on some beliefs specific to you so that you're getting what you need out of these sessions. But let me just kind of walk you through it. So how do we change our thinking? When you notice yourself going into fear or rage or despair, ask yourself, what am I telling myself right now? Not, is this thought true? But what am I saying to myself? Is this thought that I'm entertaining helping my nervous system to function well, right? You are allowed to question your interpretations. Just because we have a thought doesn't mean it's true. Sometimes people think they have to just think the first thought that came to mind, or that if a thought is persistent or it has a lot of emotional intensity, it must be true. But that's not true. I was walking down the road one night, evening, dark, and something lunged at me and I thought I was being attacked and I threw my purse and yelled and jumped back. And then I realized it was a plastic bag blowing on the wind. So even though I had a strong physical and emotional reaction to the thought that I'm being attacked, my thought and my emotions were incorrect. Our brains lie to us all the time. So you don't have to just think the first thought you get. You can introduce different ways of thinking. This may be a stupid example because, quite honestly, I have some of these shoes at home, but I always use the example of shoe shopping. If you go shoe shopping and you pull down a cute pair of shoes off the wall and you put them on and they pinch your feet and you can't walk in them and they're giving you blisters, you're not going to buy them, unless you're me, and take them home. Just ignore that. I've done that on occasion. They were super cute. Anyway, you don't buy the painful shoes and take them home. They're not for you. You put them back, you get more comfortable shoes. Our thoughts are the same. You don't have to walk around in an uncomfortable set of thoughts. So, when you catch yourself feeling some kind of way, you're angry, you're enraged, you're exhausted, you're depleted, take some time to back up and look at the thoughts you've been entertaining. Okay. This is making me think of, that hot cold game that we used to play when we were kids, where you hide something from somebody, and when they're far away, you're like, cold, cold, and they know to go in a different direction. And then when they're close, you say warm. And when they're right on it, you're like hot, hot. And they just have to follow the cues and they can find the thing. Your emotions are like a hot cold game going on within your body. We know in the game, if somebody says cold, go in the different direction. You're nowhere near the thing you're looking for, right? So those cold signals in your body, anxious, fearful, enraged, scared, exhausted, depleted. The cold feeling means go in a different direction. Examine your thoughts. What are you telling yourself? Is there a different way of looking at this situation? Again, it's not about lying to yourself. It's not about saying this situation isn't happening, I'm fine. It's about trying on some different thoughts until you find one that just feels better in your system, a pair of shoes you can walk in. Let me give you some examples. Now, the thought needs to feel true. It needs to provide some relief. It needs to feel better than the thought you were entertaining, or why bother? Again, you're not lying to yourself. You're just regulating your system so that you have more capacity. So let's say the person you're madly in love with, that you've been involved with, decides they no longer want to be with you. You have different thoughts you could choose from. You could choose, I'm a loser. I'm never going to fall in love again. Nobody's ever going to love me. I'm not lovable. But notice what happens when you think those thoughts. They deplete your system. They pull you down. They don't feel good, right? And by the way, those thoughts are not actually true. That's just a pity party we go into when we're feeling bad. So, what are some different thoughts you could try on here? You could say, there's a lot of reasons why a person may not want to be with me that have nothing to do with me. Timing, they have different goals and dreams, different aspirations. We're not a fit. That doesn't mean anything about your value or worth. That could be another thought. Even if I'm not in relationship, I have value and worth. My value and worth is not determined by whether there is somebody in my life or not. My value and worth is intrinsic. You could tell yourself, I trust that I'm lovable and that love is in my future. And I happily release this person in order to allow it in. I'd rather be with somebody who's 100% into me than be with somebody who isn't. I let them go with love, right? There's a lot of things that you could think about that. See, we're so used to thinking about things the way we think about them that we sometimes don't entertain other options. Now, this is important to know as well. We have neural pathways in our brain. It used to be thought that the brain developed to a certain point and then just stopped developing, right? Now we know that's not true. Your brain keeps changing in its form and function. Neural pathways. So if you have a neural pathway for thinking negatively and you've been doing it a long time, that pathway is well worn, it's well established. But when you introduce a new way of thinking, you try on some different shoe thoughts, right? When you introduce a new way of thinking, you're establishing a new neural pathway in your brain. And with practice, if you keep introducing that new way of thinking, eventually that new neural pathway gets so well established that it becomes the default, right? And at that point, you no longer have to try so hard. I actually had an experience of this a number of years ago that was really eye opening for me. I had a boyfriend at the time who initiated that we do this exercise together, just an experiment. Every day for a month before we went to bed, we were each to make a list of 50 things we were grateful for that day. And, as if that wasn't enough, to make it especially challenging, there were to be no carryovers from the previous day. They have to be 50 unique things. So I'm 2 or 3 days into this, and I am kicking myself that I even agreed to it. I could barely come up with half a dozen things, let alone 50. But I didn't want to admit to him that I was struggling, so I kept playing the game. I stayed in it. And around week 2, something really interesting happened. I started paying attention to things that were always there, but I had been taking them for granted. Like I would pull up to a parking meter and there would be money in the meter still, and I'd think, oh, good, I could write about this later in my gratitudes. Or somebody would give me a compliment or buy me a coffee. Now, again, these things had always been happening, but I'd gotten used to them. I wasn't aware of them, I wasn't appreciating them anymore. But because I had to start paying attention to things so I could make my list of 50 things I was grateful for, I started noticing them again, right? And by the time the month was up, I could easily make a list of 50 things. I could still, off the top of my head, right now, make a list of 50 things. Now, what I didn't realize at the time was putting myself through that exercise of having to come up with 50 things every day for 30 days with no carryover from the previous days. I was creating a new neural pathway in my brain for finding things to be grateful for. How far down the rabbit hole do we want to go? You have a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. Okay. Its job is to filter reality for you and show you what you need to focus on. So there's a lot of information out there in the world. We can't focus on it all at the same time. So our brain has to decide what to pay attention to. Because the job of your subconscious is to keep you safe, you pay attention to threat, right? Where's the potential threat? And your subconscious also pays attention to whatever is in your consciousness. So when I was pregnant, everywhere I looked, there seemed to be products, services, stores for pregnant women. I'm sure there were just as many before I got pregnant. It's not like they did that for me. That was that part of my brain doing its job. You've got pregnancy in your consciousness. Now you're seeing all the products for pregnant women. Maybe you've had the experience when you wanted to buy a car, right? All of a sudden that make and model, even that color is on the road everywhere where you look. Now, again, it's not like magically there were more of those cars. That was that part of your brain doing its job. Same part of your brain that when you're playing I Spy and you're told to look for the color red, you look for the color red, right? So that part of your brain is filtering reality. And here's the problem. If you are focused on all the negative things in the world, that part of your brain will hone in on those things and it will cancel out any of the positives, anything going well, anything to appreciate, anything that's good, and you'll hone in on the negatives. And that convinces you that all there is negative in the world, which causes you to hone in on the negative, which convinces you that all there is negative. See what's happening here? There's this vicious cycle that occurs. You believe in lack, you believe in negativity, you believe in threatening situations, you believe in bad stuff happening to bad or to good people. That's going to be your experience. You will filter the other information and you will hone in on that. So, this is why it's so important to get a handle on our thoughts. What we tell ourselves matters. Okay, the thoughts we think create a corresponding chemical cascade within our bodies. You can think yourself into anxiety, into panic, into despair, into depression, or you can think yourself into abundance, into joy, into passion, into meaning and purpose. It all happens inside your brain. The thoughts that you think create your reality. Your reticular activating system filters reality to match what is in your thoughts. Have you ever noticed you have a friend who's just super lucky, always gets good breaks? I wonder why that happens. It's not a fluke. They're not some kind of freak of nature. They probably have in their mind that good things happen to me. And so their reticular activating system is looking for the good things that could happen, the possibilities, the opportunities, right? That's what they're filtering for. So I get angry when people are like, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're so fortunate. Good things happen to you." It's like, "No, I've worked on my mindset so as to create a reality where good things happen to me." So, I know I've been kind of all over the place. I'm so passionate about this as a hypnotherapist. What we tell ourselves, what we think is like, it is so key to everything. It creates your physiology, right? It creates what you notice out there in the world, and we are connected to the quantum field. Every possibility for what you could experience in your life exists right now as potential in the quantum field, and via law of attraction, we attract things that match what's in our consciousness. So, get a handle on your thinking. Entertain some different thoughts, lay down some different neural pathways. Think of it like shoe shopping. If the thought pinches your feet, go with me here. Just go with me here. If the thought pinches your feet, try a different thought. Again, it's not lying to yourself, it's not pretending things aren't happening. It's about walking around it and looking at it from some different angles to see if there's a different perspective here, a different way of looking at it that feels maybe more neutral in your system or even more positive in your system. Once you're feeling you've got a handle on your thoughts, you're going to notice a shift in your physiology. You're going to have more energy. You're going to feel more hopeful and more ready to make good things happen, right? You're not so focused on the negative. You're just living your life. You're going to notice that you're thinking more clearly, right? Not as much adrenaline in your system. Your mind is more sharp. The blood isn't being shunted away from the clear thinking part of your brain. You're going to notice you feel more relaxed. You might even notice you feel different in your body, right? When we're in fight or flight, we tense up. That's actually physiology again. Your arms and legs, the blood moves to them so that you can fight or flee. So if you've been in a fight flight state for a long time, if you're entertaining a lot of thoughts of threat, your body is probably tense. That can include neck, that can include the back of your neck, shoulders, even your jaw we get tense. So if you notice that you have a lot of tension, check out your thoughts. And this is something that you'll probably notice shift when you get a handle on your thinking. Your whole body just relaxes. All of that tension can let go. Okay. So I've thrown a lot at you here, but again, on Friday, we're going to do an experience of this. Come with a thought that's tripping you up. You can write it anonymously in the chat. You do not have to say who you are. You don't have to give details. I will help you to reframe that thought, to find a different perspective. And I'll show you how to do it so that it's not just that one thought you know how to change, but if there are other thoughts that you entertained or thoughts that come up later that you're not sure what to do about, that you know are tripping you up, you have a strategy for dealing with them as well. So come and check out the Friday Live. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you coming and joining me today. Have a good rest of the day. Bye bye.